Welcome to the Cohn Zone. That's my dad, Lowell Cohn. I'm Grant Cohn. 49ers rookie minicamp starts at the end of the week. I haven't gotten an advisory from the PR department yet, but I'll be there for one of the days. Used to be me and my dad would go watch.
You seem to have lost you, guy.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now, but you had faded out for about 10 seconds.
Oh, that's not good. Well, all I wanted to say is that rookie minicamp is starting this week. Normally, my dad and I would go watch this together back in the days when we covered the team together for about 7 years. Now I'm going to be flying solo and telling you guys what I see. Anyway, I'll talk to you about how you doing, Dad?
When does it start?
It starts this week. I think it starts Friday, and I think they'll probably have 2-3 days, and they'll have one day they have to open to the media, and I'll be there for that.
Got it. Not every day will be open to the media.
Yeah, no, just the minimum.
Right. That's what the NFL is, right? They'll give you the minimum.
Yeah, the NBA isn't like that. The NBA is like, please interview Stephen Curry again. Anyway, rookie minicamp. This is going to be the draft picks, the undrafted free agents, and some probably invites to fill out a practice.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What I'd like to say for this topic and for most of the topics today, and remember, we're very good. We do our topics. Iggy's going to be the expert, and I will ask him questions and chime in. But this is really much more of a Grant Cohn kind of subject day. So my first question would be, Iggy, what players in the rookie minicamp, what players will you particularly pay attention to? And in each case, what would you look for in that player?
Okay. Let's focus on the top 3 draft picks. The pass rusher, Drake Jackson, the running back, Ty Davis-Price, and the wide receiver, Danny Gray. I admit right off the bat, I'm a terrible judge of running backs in the offseason. There's no tackling. And so the book on this Ty Davis-Price is that he's really hard to tackle. We'll see in preseason. I admit that right off the bat. I'll see how he runs routes and if he can catch the ball and if he can block. They do like a blitz pickup drill, but basically I won't be able to judge him very much. I'm going to be focused on the other 2 guys, the pass rusher and the wide receiver. The pass rusher, they may or may not do one-on-one pass rush drills. If they do that, he should win. There's no pads on. It's hard to get your hands on him. He is supposed to be more talented than anyone else at the rookie minicamp. He should flat out win most of the time. If he doesn't win, it's a problem. You know who didn't win? Solomon Thomas.
Oh.
Javon Kinlaw. And so I'm watching him lose to backups and other rookies thinking, you're not an NFL pass rusher. You might be a run defender, but right now I can tell you're not an NFL pass rusher. So, I mean, there's that. Also with offensive lineman, Mike McGlinchey, he could not win in these one-on-one drills in the offseason. He was losing to backups. So it's kind of like an initial test right there.
So what I'm saying, Iggy, after I hear what you've said, these one-on-one drills are serious.
Oh, yeah. It really is. I mean, you can watch them on tape playing college football, but who are they playing against? What's the context? On that field, it's all NFL players. And if they're struggling against backups, it's probably not going to go well for their career.
Love it.
Like for A.J. Jenkins, let's go to the wide receivers. A.J. Jenkins and Dante Pettis are the 2 big busts the Niners have had the last 10 years at wide receiver. And you could tell it early on. With A.J. Jenkins, he ran fast at the combine, but he didn't play fast. He didn't seem to move that fast. And in the one-on-one drills, when it was just him against the cornerback, he couldn't win. And the wide receiver's supposed to win. There's no pass rush. There's no safety. He couldn't beat undrafted free agents. That was a bad sign. That was an easy one. Pettis was tougher because he could win one-on-one. If football were a one-on-one sport, Pettis would be great at it. But once you got him 11-on-11 and he had to run over the middle, he would alligator arm passes in a practice with no hitting. Like he would just one hand up or kind of wave at it like, oh, it's only practice. Why put myself out there? I've never seen that on this practice field. That looked bad. And I could tell that. I wrote it the first time I saw him. Anyway, so I'm looking Danny Gray. Does he do stuff like that?
Okay.
Like
yeah.
Those, I mean, with Danny Gray, like, are you as fast? Do you play fast on an NFL football field? Do you look strong? Can you catch the ball consistently? That's a big one with him. He catches the ball with his chest. In rookie minicamp, he won't be playing with Trey Lance. But in OTAs, he'll be playing with Trey Lance, who throws one of the toughest to catch passes in the league. Can he catch it? Otherwise, what's your role in the team?
I see.
Yeah.
So let me just summarize then. When you're not just watching, you're you're diagnosing.
Yes. Uh,
And you're forming judgments and forming impressions.
yes, first impressions are big. I remember Debo seeing him for the first time, not expecting to see much, and seeing him run around being like, oh my God, he's the fastest player in the field. I had no idea he's this fast.
I
Debo,
see.
you could tell right away, and he was only playing with backups, but you could see, wow, this guy's he is NFL fast, and he's not afraid to go over the middle. He's ferocious. You could tell.
Boy,
You
is
could
he.
tell with Alden Smith right away. I mean, Joe Staley couldn't block him. You could tell with Nick Bosa right away. So
Yes.
I have 11
Iggy,
years of experience to draw on to compare these players to.
Iggy, obviously I've been to a lot of these things too, but I was never as shrewd looking at it as you are. I want to say that the mood of the rookie camp and the mood of the OTAs is really serious.
Absolutely.
It's really serious. People are fighting for jobs.
Yes.
There's very little. I mean, if Jerry Rice was in a camp like that, he could joke around because he knew how great he was.
Although he probably wouldn't.
Huh?
Although he probably wouldn't.
No, that's true. He probably wouldn't. He was so dead serious about his craft.
Yeah.
So these rookie camps are deadly serious.
Yes. And you think about it, like if, especially when you get into OTAs and minicamp, the players who are really entrenched and veterans, they don't play that much. Alex Mack, Trent Williams, they won't play that much. It's the guys who are out there are the guys who may or may not make the team, the guys who may or may not have an NFL career. And imagine how hard they're competing. That's why a lot of times people get hurt in these practices, because there are players who aren't quite the top level of NFL athlete trying so freaking hard and stepping on each other, falling on each other, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fights break out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because it's very serious.
It's very serious.
Iggy, is Alex Mack coming back?
Still hasn't said.
Oh, because you mentioned his name. I thought maybe I missed something.
No, sorry. Yeah, as soon as I said it, I don't even know if he's on the team anymore. Anyway, okay. I guess I'm looking for things that seem highly irregular. Does so-and-so look like he belongs here? You can kind of tell if you've been there long enough. I feel like, I don't know. My track record's okay. So should we talk about what to watch for during OTAs and minicamp when the vets get there?
I would love it. What are you going to watch for? Well, first, who are you going to watch?
Well, I mean, I think this is Trey Lance time. When OTAs start, Jimmy Garoppolo's not going to be there. He's still rehabbing, and it's going to be like a dry run for the 49ers to sort of fall in love with Trey Lance as their starting quarterback. You know, they keep saying they believe in him, but he needs to show it, which means they don't believe in him. So if he shows it in OTAs and just looks like a totally different guy, someone who, you know, completes most of his passes and looks just, I guess, passes the eye test unlike last year, they'll feel good. But everyone's going to be looking at his release. How does he throw? Does he throw different? He's supposed to be tightening up his release, quickening it. Did he do that? Does he look different than last year, or does he look the same? That's going to be a big topic. Does he look any different than last year? Did the year on the bench do anything for him, or is Jimmy Garoppolo actually coming back?
Iggy, does he have the slow release, sort of like Kaepernick?
Not as slow as Kaepernick, but slower than Jimmy's. I would slower than average. It's okay because he scrambles around a lot, and it's not a big deal when he's outside the pocket. But I think they want him to tighten it up a little bit. So we'll see if he did. We'll see.
Does he have a bit of a looping motion?
A little bit of a loop on the way down.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. I think he has a much quicker release than Kaepernick. But the thing with Kaepernick was Kaepernick had been throwing his whole life. He was a big baseball player. He couldn't change the way he threw. Trey Lance hasn't been playing quarterback that long. He doesn't have the same like muscle memory he might be able to change. And unlike Kaepernick, remember people would bring it up to him and he'd say, I'm not really that into mechanics. You know, he would actually say that.
He would.
Lance doesn't do that. He goes to all the best quarterback teachers in the offseason and does the work. So I think he can probably do it under the supervision of a coach in like a one-on-one tutoring session. But can you do it in a scrimmage, 11 on 11? Can you do it? Because usually your muscle memory takes over in those, if he has any. So we'll see. It's a lot of pressure on Trey Lance, a lot of scrutiny.
I'm going to go to a subtopic, and we'll come back to Lance in a second. Kaepernick saying, I'm not that into mechanics is like me saying, I don't need to know grammar.
It was not a good look. You don't want a franchise quarterback saying that.
I know what a paragraph is, right?
I mean, Tom Brady goes to Tom House all the time. You can't do what Tom Brady does? All right, well,
okay.
Trey Lance wants to.
So listen. So in the OTAs and minicamp, the number one story is the kid quarterback, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Um, let's say the kid quarterback is on the money.
Hmm.
He's getting guys over the middle, and more important, he's getting guys deep on the sideline,
Hmm.
which is Jimmy can't do.
Yep.
Okay, then they can anoint him.
Yes.
What if he misses high?
Yeah.
Uh, a lot more than you would want.
What if it
Misses
looks like last year?
let me Mrs. High also he can't moderate the speed on his passes. And didn't you say in his ball seems to jump a little bit, or
It wobbles a little.
it's a wobbler?
It's a wobbler. It's not a perfect spiral all the time. Sometimes it has a little wobble,
Okay,
and he throws it hard.
so a hard wobble,
Hard wobble.
a hard wobble.
Hard wobble.
What if he misses? Now, look, I want you to know I've never seen him in training camp. I'm retired. This is just a hypothetical. We did the good. They anoint him. What if this happens?
It's very discouraging because you're thinking they did everything they could. They kept him on the bench a year. They sent him to all the gurus they could. He was earnest in his attempt to try to improve, and nothing worked. That would be very, very discouraging. In which case, they'd have to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, and you'd have to really wonder about what Kyle Shanahan's future is, because he really bet his whole career on this kid. They didn't just let him fall to them. He wasn't just some guy they drafted. They staked their reputations on trading up for him. So if he can't improve at all, that's a big story, and a lot of people are going to talk about it. I'll talk about it. I don't expect it, but I'll have to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've moved on from the rookie camp to the main camp. And not only is Trey Lance the big story, but it's an extremely dramatic story.
One more thing about it. Sorry, go ahead and finish it.
No, because it's going toward defining him
No
and
question.
defining the team.
Last year, he really only played with the second team. He got a little reps here and there with the starters. So anytime he did something good, it was kind of invalidated. Well, it's going against backups.
Oh,
This year in OTAs, he'll get the whole time while Jimmy's out rehabbing. You and the starters, you with Debo, you with Kittle. How does it look? Can you sell your teammates on this? Can you sell your coaches on this? Can you sell the media on this? He should be able to. He should be able to. If he can't, that's a big story.
okay. What I want to say then, with Jimmy being out, this is a perfect opportunity for a young man to grab it and make it his. They're giving it to him on a silver platter, Iggy.
Silver platter. No pass rush. It's just practice.
No,
Tear it up. You got Debo. Oh, I don't know if Debo is going to be there. Actually, let's take that back. You got Brandon Ayuk. You got George Kittle. You got more than enough. I mean, it's not like Jimmy Garoppolo was particularly great in practices. Just sell the team that you can do as good as him or better. Shouldn't be that hard. Low bar.
So he's got to sell the coaches, the media, the fans, but also the team.
The team. Absolutely.
He's got to make the team rally around him.
It's like they're a Broadway play and he's replacing the star, and they have like a couple of months of dry rehearsal. Like, can you bring it? Can you show everyone that you're
they're in Boston or Philly right now, but they're going to open on Broadway soon.
Pretty soon. And I think he can, but I guess he's got to prove it. He's got to prove it. So that's what everyone's going to be watching. As soon as Trey Lance hits the field, it's going to be more scrutiny than a quarterback's had in a long, long time.
And it's Iggy, I would love to write that story.
Oh, God, so much fun.
I want to remind our viewers of a story I've told here before. I got this from one of the 49ers coaches. One time when Joe Montana and Steve Young were there, but Young was the backup, Montana went out for a few plays. He got hurt or something like that. And Steve went into the huddle and started saying, we're going to do this. We're going to do, like that. And the other 10 players were like pissed. Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Yo is our quarterback. You haven't shown us anything. Don't take that tone with us.
Yeah.
And I spoke to the coach, and I didn't know what the coach would think. And he said, Joe proved it over a long time. Steve hadn't proved anything yet.
Yeah.
And now this is his chance to prove to the team.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's like, it's some of it's what you do, but some of it's how you do it.
Yeah.
And I think with Lance, it's not just going to be like, can you run around and make plays and throw deep? Like, do you look like you know what you're doing in the offense? If the play is a slant to the left, do you do the 3-step drop? Do you get the ball out on time? Do you look like a veteran? Or do you still look like a rookie who's figuring it out? I think it's going to be how he does it. Because last year, actually, his numbers were better than Jimmy's numbers in camp. But it didn't look right to people. So he didn't get the job.
Well, also, Jimmy is probably one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks who's ever lived.
And he's such a great leader and a great guy.
Well, he may be a great guy, and he may be a great leader, but I was being ironic. I wouldn't put him in the top 5 quarterbacks who ever lived.
No, maybe top 10.
Okay.
All right, that's fair. Okay, let's talk about something Chris Sims said. Chris Sims is...
First, tell people who Chris Sims is.
Chris Sims is a former NFL quarterback who went to college with Kyle Shanahan. They were both on the team at Texas. Chris Sims is now an NFL analyst at NBC's Pro Football Talk. He's really, really insightful. And he was talking about the 49ers and Trey Lance, and he said a couple of things. First, he said, anyone who watched Trey Lance in training camp last year was concerned coming out of that experience, particularly about his accuracy. I thought this was really interesting to start here because Chris Sims wasn't at training camp last year. So he is talking about what he heard from other people. I was at training camp last year. So I think it's fair to just clarify and maybe make this correct. I wasn't concerned about Trey Lance. So I wasn't concerned about his accuracy. I charted every single pass he threw, and he completed 69% of his passes in practice. It's just practice. But Jimmy completed 63. So all I'm saying is, I don't know where he heard that. Maybe he heard it from someone on the team. Also in preseason, Trey completed only 46% of his passes, but 10 were dropped. If you give him those 10, it's 70. Now, he was at fault for some of those drops because he threw so hard. But that's not an accuracy issue. That's a velocity issue. So I find this critique kind of interesting. There's like whispers going around the league that Trey struggled last year. I don't think it's as simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about this a little as a journalist. First of all, let's say Chris Sims is Phil Sims' son.
Chris Sims is Phil Sims' son.
Okay, who was a very good quarterback, not great, very good, and won a Super Bowl.
Yes.
And he's an analyst on TV. So this is the progeny of Phil Sims. Did he actually use the word anyone? Anyone who watched? Is that
I believe he did. I could go back and I believe he did.
Okay. Let's assume he did. You can't make the statement.
Yeah.
Because he didn't talk to everyone.
Right.
You could say some people.
Yeah.
Or I've heard that some coaches.
Yes.
Remember when you were at UCLA and you took a law school class?
Mm-hmm. It was called Evidence.
Yeah. And the teacher, you loved him. He was very interesting. And he put down journalists, and you, God love you, defended us.
We're doing stuff like this.
Statements like this.
Doing stuff like this. Basically passing off an opinion as a fact. Or hearsay. Passing off hearsay as a fact. Anyone. I was there. I was not included in the poll. Someone asked me.
He didn't call you.
No, I was there. Yeah.
So we're talking about basic journalism.
Yeah.
If you're going to make a statement of anyone, then you need to talk to everyone.
That's right.
Now, I assume he talked to Kyle Shanahan. I assume maybe he's getting some, I don't know, but they're friends. Don't they have tattoos or something?
Yeah, they do. They have matching tattoos. Now, real quick, what that professor taught me is that the way that most journalists sort of weasel around this problem is to do the phrase, some people say. Some people say Trey Lance struggled and you can't verify that. And it's you can't say it's wrong either. So he had contempt for that phrase. Some people say.
I do as well.
Yeah.
And whenever I read it, I think of your professor at UCLA.
Yes. Again, Chris Sims, you were a quarterback. Now you work for NBC. You work with Mike Florio. You got to do a little bit better than this.
You can't make statements like that. Anyone? Did he call Matty Mayoko? Did he call Barrows?
I saw every single practice. I went down to Costa Mesa and watched the joint practice. I was there too. He didn't call me.
So,
and I've talked to Chris Sims on the phone before. I interviewed him like 6-7 years ago about left-handed quarterbacks. He gave me his time. He was really generous.
So we're not putting you down, Chris, but we're educating you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're more now on the media side than you are on the player side, and it's very innocent, bordering on irresponsible to make statements like that.
I'm sure he heard something. I'm sure he has information. It's just about how you present it.
Yeah,
How you
yeah.
present
He
it.
could have
Yeah.
said, "I spoke to a coach,"
Yep.
or
Yep.
the two people I interviewed off
Right.
the record
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
"Anyone,
It's like, wait,
anyone."
wait, wait. What about me? Yes.
Plus, sometimes didn't they let fans in?
Yes.
Did he talk to the fans?
That's a lot of fans. In fact, they let fans in every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
Chris, you need to maybe read a basic book on journalism and evidence.
I think so. All right. He said more, though. He also said, and this was an opinion, that the Niners are scared to switch from Jimmy Garoppolo to Trey Lance. This, to me, is a fair opinion, and it has a lot of it carries water. What do you think? Carries
I
water.
think I agree with him.
Yeah.
And Iggy, it's so obvious
Yeah.
that you want to fall off the chair and die laughing.
Exactly.
It's,
We needed Chris Sims to say it from wherever he is. Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
If they were sold on the kid, they would have announced he's the starter. He would have played more games last year.
Yes. Yes. What I think was interesting about what he said, he even had a theory as to why they're scared. It's not necessarily that had a concerning rookie training camp. It's that they gave up so much for him. They gave up a package that you only give up for the best players in the league. 3 first-round picks. I mean, the Niners couldn't even get that for Debo right now. They could get maybe 1 first-round pick. 3 first-round picks they gave up for Trey Lance. So it's pressure on Trey, but it's really pressure on Kyle. As soon as Trey's on the field, Kyle's going to be, being judged. Did you take the right quarterback? Were you right? Not just did you take the right quarterback. Were you smart to trade up for him? Because if he had just had if Lance had just fallen to him, there wouldn't be the same level of scrutiny. But you sort of anointed him a Hall of Fame player before he even stepped on the field by giving up that package for him.
Right.
Yeah.
So this mini camp, let's look at the broader picture. The number one story is how Trey Lance performs.
Yeah.
But number 1A is this is also a judgment on Kyle. If the kid performs well, then you begin to think, okay, he did well, even though it was insane and he gave up too much for him.
But the plan is working. Maybe seasoning him on the bench worked. Give Kyle the benefit of the doubt. But
if it's not that way, then you have to think, oh my God, did Kyle and the whole organization screw up? They sold the farm to get this kid.
Yeah. And then you ask other questions like, do they have no freaking clue what they're doing at quarterback?
Iggy, do they have a freaking clue what they're doing at quarterback?
To be determined. It all depends on Lance. How they went about getting Lance seems highly suspect. But if he turns out to be a great quarterback, they all get, that makes their career. So I guess we'll see. If he turns out to be someone like, Terrell Pryor or even Colin Kaepernick, if he's not good, then people are going to look at Kyle Shanahan as a guy with a good system who can't be making decisions. He's an offensive coordinator the rest of his career. You can't pick quarterbacks.
Yeah. Again, Bill Walsh had many wonderful qualities, but God, could he understand? He understood. He told me, I understand the game from the quarterback's point of view. And he had been a wide receiver at San Jose State, but he understood it. I would have to think, what is Kyle understanding? Is he understanding it from the quarterback's point of view or a wide receiver's point of view?
He was a wide receiver. And it's not just him, it's his dad too. His dad never developed a quarterback. He coached Steve Young and John Elway and had success with those guys when they were in their prime. But, Mike Shanahan drafted guys like Elvis Gerback when he was with the Niners and Brian Griese. Kyle's drafted guys like Kirk Cousins and CJ Beathard. They have a type. They've never really developed. They haven't really shown they could take a guy like Trey Lance and get the most out of him. That's what Andy Reid can do. So it's a big test for Kyle.
Very interesting. I wouldn't say Kyle's on the hot seat. And look, if the kid turns out fabulous, Kyle moves up a notch.
Right.
But if he has a problem, the two big stories in training camp are the quarterback, but also the head coach.
Of course. And what Kyle can always do to sort of cover his rear end is hold on to Jimmy. Because even though Jimmy isn't good enough, he's good enough to keep you employed. So maybe, and that's why people wonder, why is he still on the team?
Okay, if he holds on to Jimmy, it's like putting up the white flag.
Yes, it is.
Crying uncle. If he needs that security blanket, oh my God, they got to get rid of Jimmy yesterday.
I know. And you're not just saying that because you have a $50 bottle of wine riding on that with me. You really believe that. I do too. But I think you said the Niners have to be insane to keep Jimmy. That's what I'm banking on. They are. And Chris Sims makes me feel like I might win this bet. Scared. Yeah, I feel that. Insane, but also terrified. They are terrified of the unknown, terrified of the position they put themselves in. I don't know. Did they not think this through? Did Kyle not realize how much pressure would be on him if he traded all that for that quarterback who never played before? He didn't figure that?
Iggy, when you guys interview Kyle Shanahan, does he seem like a guy who feels pressure? Does he seem nervous, or is he relaxed, or is he hard to read?
It's complicated. It's like he expects us local beat writers to sort of like him and give him a break because he's the good guy. Anytime anyone tries to give him a question that's bordering on criticism, he gets what we like to call the red ass. He doesn't like it. Doesn't take it well.
Steve Kerr's the same way.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit like Steve Kerr. He kind of expects a soft local beat writing core. And anytime he gets anyone who questions him, he sort of tries to verbally slap him down, which is me.
It would have been me. It would have been Ira Miller. It would have been Glenn Dickey.
Yeah. I mean, it was just 2 weeks ago at the draft when we were all asking Kyle Shanahan about Debo, and I said, "Why are you confident you can work this out with Debo?" And he said, "Because I am." I was like, "Okay, that's pretty much a classic me and Kyle interaction right there." Thanks, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. This is a fair question. And I was like, "Because of your personal relationship with Debo?" And then he finally realized how unprofessional that sounded, and he actually gave a real answer. But it's like, because I am. That's his impulse with me.
So what he's really telling you is buzz off.
Yeah, buzz off.
I don't need this.
Yeah. I don't need to talk to you, Jerky.
I don't need to love the Jerky Boys. I don't need to talk to you.
Just give me the Frank Rizzo.
When people like coaches or general managers would do things like that with me, it would only encourage me. Yeah.
He's been doing that for a couple of seasons with me, and I just makes me. It's what I do is I just post the clips on Twitter and say Kyle Shanahan hates me. It's hilarious. It makes him look bad. Like, well, how are you letting me get under your skin? I'm just quality control. I'm trying to help.
Does he ever use your name?
Never.
Ever. He's never called you Grant.
No, absolutely not. Why would he give me that validation?
Sure. And Lynch no longer uses your name either.
No, I think he thinks I betrayed him because he gave me the one-on-one 3 years ago. I appreciate the one-on-one. What am I supposed to do? Praise you the rest of my life? I do praise you when you do good things. I mean, sometimes you do some crazy stuff. What do you want me to say?
Okay,
anyway.
I want to say this.
Yeah.
I'm pulling for Trey Lance to do well. And I want to tell you why.
Okay.
Who needs, I mean, if I were doing it, I would write it, but who needs to keep writing? Why'd they give up 3 draft choices? Kyle, maybe he sucks after all.
Right.
Wouldn't it be fun to see a new Steve Young, a new Joe Montana take off and to be able to cover a splendid athlete like that?
It would be great. And it's been a long freaking time.
Yes.
It's been a long time. That's what I'm rooting for too.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm so I'm partial to Trey. I was so enthusiastic because he has a chance. He has a freaking chance. And I think we've realized for a while that Jimmy doesn't.
No. Jimmy really tried hard, and he did the best he could, but it's really not good enough.
He did. I like that. He did the best he could, but it's not good enough. Let's see what Trey can do. Let's take some questions. HR says everything comes down to Lance, but the 49ers aren't acting like that. They should be putting 110% into him as an organization.
Meaning they should declare him the starter right now?
Probably get rid of Jimmy, use the cap space, help him as much as possible. Don't have holes in your offensive line.
I agree with that comment.
Yeah. Instead of doing that, they're sort of covering their rear ends, hedging their bets, keeping Jimmy just in case. Swanson says Holmgren helped develop Montana, Young, Favre, Rodgers. Yeah, and he developed Andy Reid, who developed Donovan McNabb and Patrick Mahomes.
Hold on, well, on the 49ers, Bill Walsh deserves a lot more credit for developing quarterbacks than Mike Holmgren.
True.
It's not
That's
even
true. Holmgren really developed Favre. That's the main thing he did. Matthew Sanders said, Steve won a Super Bowl and still gets shade. Lance will never be worth it to some people. This will be a test of Kyle's leadership as much as his eye for talent. That's true. It seems like nothing he ever does will be enough, given what they gave up for him.
If he wins a Super Bowl, it'll be enough.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew. Bay Area Niner says, Lowell, do you think that the team fears that Lance will only have 1 year to prove it to the fans before they turn on him? Niner fans always want that top 3 quarterback.
I don't think the team is that worried about if the fans turn on him. Right? Is that the question? I don't think they care that much about the fans.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Dad. All right, last topic.
No, don't we have? Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to ask it.
Sure.
I want to talk about who's the best players on the team. Best on offense, best on defense. We know Debo's the best on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take him out because it's so obvious. And he sort of may not even be there. So who is their best player on offense and make a case for it? And who is their best player on defense?
Okay. Their best player on offense is Trent Williams, the left tackle. Trent Williams, even though he's in his mid-30s, he's the best. He's better than Joe Staley. I watched Joe Staley most of his career. Joe Staley was great. This guy's greater. He's quicker on his feet. He's stronger. He's just better at everything than Joe Staley, who was excellent at everything. So Trent Williams, and it's probably not even close. He actually might even be a better player than Deebo Samuel.
Whoa, he's that good.
It's just you don't make the same kind of impact on the offensive line as you do at wide. He doesn't score touchdowns, but he's great at his job.
Okay.
And it kind of gets overshadowed sometimes because the rest of the offensive linemen aren't that great, but he does his one job. And an offensive line is judged as a collective group, not as one guy, but he does his job better than anyone.
Iggy, have you interviewed him much?
Not one-on-one because since he's been on the team, we've been out of the locker room, but anytime they bring him out, he's great. We just gave him the Niver Award last year. He split it with Jimmy Garoppolo.
The award is
the Gary Niver Award is something the beat writers vote on every year. The player on the team who's the most generous with his time with the media, and Joe Staley's won that award. It's named after a former beat writer who passed away.
He was a friend of mine, Gary Niver. He wrote for the San Mateo Times.
Yes,
lovely man.
Last year, Trent Williams and Jimmy Garoppolo split it. They split the award.
And my impression of Trent Williams is he's very thoughtful.
Extremely thoughtful.
And very bright.
Yes. He's a lot like Ahmad Brooks is how I describe him when he talks. Just really thoughtful, bright, calm, thinking about it like you are, almost an outsider.
And i.e. also
Ahmad Brooks was our ace up our sleeves. People don't know about Ahmad Brooks, but he was always the guy we went to.
Right. And he had fun with us.
Oh God. Yes. We would look forward to each other, I would hope after games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ahmad. Anyway, Trent
Williams. I don't want to talk to the media. And then he was like,
what about us? What are you talking about? Come on. We talk every week. So
okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stick with the offense.
Yes.
We've done Trent Williams, and I'd say it's actually obvious.
Right.
Next best player after him on offense.
All right. That's a good question. All right. I'm going to go with not George Kittle.
I would agree. Not George Kittle.
I'm going to say Brandon Ayuk. I think Brandon Ayuk is really good. He was just a really bad fit with Jimmy Garoppolo because Jimmy doesn't look sort of at that part of the field outside the numbers and deep. I think Lance and Ayuk are going to have a big-time connection, and he's going to have a much better year than George Kittle. Ayuk.
I feel Kittle is beginning to decline.
Yeah, and I think Ayuk's ascending. This is going to be his best year, I think.
Have you told our viewers that you had dinner with Ayuk's mom?
No, I haven't. But I've told Brandon, so I feel like it's. Can I tell the story now?
Yeah, don't say where the mother lives.
No. Okay, so this is a great story, and I've told Brandon Ayuk this story, and I've never told. But I think it's fair game. So, in Green Bay, I was staying at a Marriott close to the to Lambeau Field. I had a dinner reservation late at night. I had a couple hours to kill. I went down to the bar at the Marriott by myself, and down at the other end of the bar was a lady talking to a couple of Niner fans, and I heard her saying, Arizona State, yada yada yada, Sierra College, yada yada yada. I'm thinking that's probably Brandon Ayuk's mom. So I said, excuse me, I was eavesdropping. Are you Brandon Ayuk's mom? She looked at me and she said, are you Grant Cohn? She said, I watch you all the time. She pulled out her phone and she showed all the YouTube videos. So I bought her a drink and we had a great time and we gossiped and stuff. I'm not going to say we talked about. Then I said, what are you doing for dinner? I have It's me and Rob. Rob Shu he does the show with me on Fridays. Rob Shu was out in Green Bay too. I said, me and Rob, if you ever watch that show, are going out to dinner. Do you want to come? She said, absolutely. So I brought her and the 2 fans and Rob Shu, and the 5 of us had dinner at the best restaurant in Green Bay, which was a lot of fun. And that was my night. I have a picture with her too. And I met up with Brandon Ayuk at the local pro day a couple weeks ago, and I told him about it. And he was like, oh, I already know.
I think that is so charming, Iggy.
She's really nice.
You really liked her.
She's a nurse. She's really, really smart, loves her son, never thought he'd make it to the NFL. It's like, really, really geeked on the whole thing. So proud of him. Yeah.
And you also went out to dinner with fans. That's something I would never do. And it was okay.
Yeah, the fans ended up paying for it. They were real. I forget the guys. There was 2 Indian fellows, a dad and a son. They were really nice. We drank a lot that night. So I'm sorry, I forget your names.
Treated everybody.
Treated everyone. I didn't pay for anything. And neither did Brandon Ayuk's mom. So really the 2 fans took us out.
Well, God,
it was my idea though. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good story. And me and Rob have kept that secret. We haven't told anyone, but I figured,
I think we can tell that story now. Yeah. And look, when you're loud in the locker room, I think you should find a moment to ask Brandon if he'll give you his cell number.
Sure. I mean, okay. Absolutely. I'm sure I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For all time's sake.
All right. So we got to go defense now.
Defense. Okay. Who's the best player on defense?
The best player on defense is Nick Bosa.
That's what I was going to say. Nick Bosa. Flat out, Nick Bosa.
Flat out. So, and I'll say why he's so good. I didn't like him when he came out of college. I was like, I don't know. He's had some big injuries in college. He's got really short arms. I think he's just famous because his brother is really good and his dad was a first-round pick. What I didn't realize about Nick Bosa is he is like the strongest defensive end in the league. He is so freaking strong. And he's got kind of short arms, but he's like Mike Tyson. And he just gets inside people and gets underneath them and just forklifts them off the ground. He just throws 330-pound grown men. So, yeah, he's really freaking good against the run, pass, everything.
Would you say he is a major talent in the league?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the 5 best defensive ends in the league, one of the 30, 40 best players in the league.
That's what I feel.
But here's the rub. So we're talking, so without Debo, who are the best players in the league? Ayuk, Trent Williams,
best players on the team.
On the Niners. Week 17, the Niners didn't have Trent Williams against the Rams, who won the Super Bowl, beat him. The next week against the Cowboys, the Niners went up against they lost both in the first half, didn't have them in the second half, beat the Cowboys. So as great as those 2 players are, I don't think they make the impact that Debo makes. I don't think the Niners win either of those 2 games without Debo. That's kind of interesting to me.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Talk a little about Bosa. What is his personality?
His personality is a little like Jeff Spicoli. Very talk very slowly, very live and let live. Hey, how's it going? Hey, he's such a violent player, but then he comes to the podium and he says, "Hey guys, yeah, I think we worked pretty hard out there. We think we're doing pretty good." So he whispers almost. I think it's pretty funny. I can do an impression of him. I think I can do an impression better than I can describe him.
Do it.
Well, I got chipped a little bit out there, but most of all, we're pretty pleased with the effort we did out there. Pretty pleased. Really? That's how you talk? I don't know. Kind of funny.
You find this a lot with football players, especially defensive players.
Yeah.
They're 2 personalities.
Yes.
And when they get on the field, they hit a switch.
Yes.
Ronnie Lott was like that.
Yeah.
And they're really, really violent players.
Yes.
But when they come off, they have to get back into real life. They can't be hitting people.
No.
And they have this other personality. You see it a lot with cornerbacks where they're quite likable.
Yes.
Very verbal and really nice. He
kind of comes across as Ferdinand the Bull, Nick Bosa, when he's talking there. I'm supposed to hit the quarterback. I hit him a few times. They pay me millions of dollars. It's fun, It's like,
okay, he's the best player on defense. Who's number 2?
Wow, that's a tough one. People used to think it was Fred Warner.
Yeah.
He was really good, but last year he wasn't that great. He got paid and he had a decent year. I'm going to say Jimmy Ward, and not just because he was on my channel one time. Jimmy Ward doesn't get any credit. The Niners don't really promote him very much, but he shuts down every tight end he faces man-to-man. Anytime the Niners go up against a team that has a good tight end, he's not going to have a good game because Jimmy Ward just erases him. So he doesn't have big numbers, but neither does the tight end he's facing that week. Jimmy Ward is the second best player on the defense.
I love that call. Is it possible that Warner also, he's had so many concussive plays? I don't mean his head, his whole body. Do you think he may be wearing down a little bit?
The way I read it was actually he used to be really, really good in coverage. He would break up passes, intercept passes. He was kind of lost in coverage this year. And I wondered if that's the Robert Saleh effect. Like on defense too, the coordinator can talk to the middle linebacker. And maybe Robert Saleh saying, expect this is going to happen, expect this. Maybe he didn't have that voice in his ear anymore. Maybe I don't know. I wonder.
That's a very interesting hypothesis and something I never thought of.
Yeah, I wonder. So we'll see if Fred Warner can bounce back.
Yeah. We would have to say that Saleh is brilliant, right?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes, there's no question. Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I learned it when I interviewed him off the record about the Super Bowl between the Rams and Patriots. He didn't want to go on the record, but he wanted to be candid, and he actually explained how the entire game was going to unfold. Everyone was expecting a high-scoring game, and he's like, no. Neither offense is going to work. This is what Bill Belichick's going to do, and then this is what Wade Phillips is going to do. And I was like, wow, Robert Saleh really putting himself out there. I can see why he doesn't want to put his name behind this because this is crazy. And then the game happened. I was like, whoa. I've never actually heard someone actually lay out how a football game's going to You can do that with boxing matches.
I can.
And that's rare. But I've never seen someone actually do it with a football game. There's so many variables, Dad.
Right. I have to say how impressed I am with Saleh, and also how nice he is to you.
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while he'll still text you, right?
Yeah. He actually checks in on me every couple of months. He's a great friend. I really, really like that guy. He's a stand-up guy. It's not fake. If it were fake, I would have figured it out by now. He's a really genuine stand-up guy.
He wouldn't have to reach out to you.
Yeah, I can't do anything for him anymore, and he'll still reach out to me. How's it going? He called me a week after my mom passed away. Saleh did.
He called you.
He called me. He did.
And also the 49ers public relations sent a beautiful flowers to my house.
He did. They did. Nice. Yep. I'll always remember that.
Yep. That was nice. Is that our show? Do we have anything else? Any other topics we'd like to talk about?
We could have talked about Rich Scangarello, but he's history.
I got nothing else to do. Tell me what.
All right. So this was interesting. We were kind of theorizing all year that maybe something was going on with maybe there was a split inside the team, the locker room, the coaching staff on whether Trey Lance needed to be there. Then the Niners got rid of a bunch of coaches this offseason, particularly on offense, particularly the quarterback coach. I just found a podcast he went on 3 months ago after he left the Niners, after he'd taken the job with the University of Kentucky as offensive coordinator. And they were just asking him, like, what do you look for when you're scouting quarterbacks in the NFL? And he just went through it in 20 minutes. It was very insightful. But when you just start taking notes and list the things that he looks for, Trey Lance is none of those things. I thought it was so like he's got to be a multi-year starter. If this guy's going to be a franchise quarterback and not be a bust, he's got to be a multi-year starter. What else? He has to have elevated the program. North Dakota State's good every year, no matter who they are. And he's got to be really good under duress in the pocket in college. Well, North Dakota State has a great offensive line compared to the Division II teams they face. So really, he is the kind of quarterback that Rich Scangarello is trying to avoid. It's kind of, the big, impressive athlete who can't play the position and has no experience, which is funny because, like, as a quarterback coach, I feel like you should want to coach that guy. That's the guy who needs coaching. That's the kind of project you should feel like I can do that, but not him.
So they asked him to leave. I mean, he didn't. Okay. So I want to say a couple of things. It's possible we might at least put out the inference that they didn't feel he was the best coach for Trey Lance, so they sent him on his merry way.
Mm-hmm.
We also know, though, that anyone you talk to can say Some
Some people
NFL
might.
assistant coaches are leaving the NFL and going to college because they can earn more money in college.
That is true.
Is that a true fact, Iggy?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Scangarello's making more money than Greasy right now.
And he's making more money than he made last season.
Good point. I would think
Yeah.
so.
So this is something for you guys and ladies to look out for, that there is a certain movement of NFL coaches to college strictly for money.
Especially
And I'm not
position
talking head
coaches.
coaches. I'm
Position
talking
coaches.
position coaches.
Yeah, because position coaches are kind of getting the short end of the stick
And they
in the
work
NFL.
so hard. They work
They
so
work
hard.
so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what people say, like, hey, Steve Young should be the Niners quarterback coach. Does he want to work 90 hours a week?
No way.
I don't think so.
No.
So anyway, what was interesting? Go ahead.
These assistant coaches and coordinators, they're in the building when it's dark. They come in the morning, it's still dark. And sometimes they leave, it's dark. They never see the light of day.
It's absolutely true. When I was listening to the Scangarello thing, I was thinking, he's talking like a coordinator or a coach or a general manager, and he has his opinions, and he may be right, but it's too bad that Trey Lance had to spend a year with a mentor who didn't believe in him. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
And if that's the case, the Niners were right to get rid of him.
Yep. Absolutely.
They have more invested in Trey Lance than they do in Scangarello.
Yeah, and if that's the case, Scangarello really should have read the room and got on the bandwagon. Like, what do you think, man?
Iggy, maybe he didn't know how to coach a guy like that.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe his biases that a guy like that can't succeed just superseded any ability he had to coach a guy like that.
Yeah.
It seemed like his attitude is, well, I'll try, but it's freaking pointless. Okay, man. Well, why don't you just quit then? Bring in someone who has a positive outlook here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was just telling on himself the whole time. Like, gee, this is why they fired me. Okay. Thanks for telling us. Yeah. Anyway, that's our show today. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for coming, Dad.
It's always a pleasure. I love you, Iggy.
I love you too, Dad. We'll be back same time, same place next week. See ya.